Hello, friends. Welcome to Look and Live. You are now here with Pastor James Devallon, and this is another reaction video. Matt Walsh documentary movie entitled "What Is a Woman" has certainly made headway over the internet and has left a tremendous impression on the mind of many, including myself. I have to admit, this was one of the best things I have ever seen with my eyes in 2022 as far as a movie is concerned, for a number of reasons. The logic used in there was very balanced. It shows how when you simply ask a simple question and you simply do a little bit of digging, a little bit of pressing with the gender ideology that has plagued our world, it is so easy to tear it down like a house of cards. The second thing that I've also noticed is the way that Matt Walsh conducts himself in this documentary. He's done an excellent job keeping his emotions under control, asking all the proper questions, challenging the narrative in so many different ways, and showing that very few people who supports this gender ideology do not necessarily understand exactly what they are standing for. So what I'm going to be doing for the next couple days, we're going to be talking about What Is a Woman documentary. We are going to go through the interviews. So without wasting any more time, we're going to go to interview number one. So the first thing, let's move over to the Daily Wire website right now. I want to say there's a link to this in my description. You want to make sure you watch the entire thing to make sense of what is being discussed here.
How could you take?
There we go. This is kind of where I wanted to go with this. So this is the first interview that we are going to listen to by Matt Walsh. And all right, friends, we're going to dive in right now with interview number one in What Is a Woman. We're going to let Matt Walsh do his talk here. So this first interview is with this doctor. So let's enjoy this thing together.
Well, I guess Don isn't overthinking it. He admits he's not a gender studies major, or at the very least a doctor. Maybe I should go talk to one.
My name is Michelle Forcier, and I have a medical degree from University of Connecticut, residency, University of Utah Pediatrics, and I've worked for a number of different Planned Parenthoods for 20 years. I do advanced contraception and abortion, as well as gender hormones, and sort of looking at the whole sort of schema of gender, sex, and reproductive justice.
So you've done a lot of work in this field. Could you just start by telling us?
Sure.
At what age can a child first begin to transition into another gender or identify themselves as a gender different from how they were born?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's research and data that show that babies and infants understand differences in gender. Some children figure out their gender.
Babies and infants actually know whether or not their gender is different than their biological makeup. Okay, this is getting better.
Really early, and the reason why we say, oh, that's interesting or important, is because they're figuring out their gender identity is not necessarily congruent with their sex assigned at birth.
When the doctor,
they're figuring out that their gender identity is not necessarily congruent to their sex assigned at birth. This is like the foundation for this transgender ideology, is that they put a difference between sex and gender, and based on this difference they're able to create another I don't want to even call it a reality. They create another argument to introduce this gender ideology, but really sex and gender is really not they're not anything different. This is a makeup thing. But anyway, this is kind of where the issue really is. Let's listen to this one again.
Children figure out their gender really early. And the reason why we say, oh, that's interesting or important is because they're figuring out their gender identity is not necessarily congruent with their sex assigned at birth.
That's a problem.
When the doctor sees the penis and says...
What does that mean, sex assigned at birth? It's just what you are. You either... I mean, I'm going to let him do his talk, but there are these buzzwords you have to catch on to. I'm realizing certain way that they term certain things as they speak. They have weaponized the language in a way to become more suitable for their argument, and we kind of have to take language back in a way in order to challenge this thing.
This is a male, has the sex of male. That's a arbitrary distinction.
Telling that family, based on that little penis, that your child is absolutely 100% male identified, no matter what else occurs in their life, that's not correct.
Okay, doctor.
So what is gender affirmation care? You're a big proponent of. If you walk through, a child is sitting down with you, is questioning their gender. What's the gender affirmation process?
Affirmation means that as a pediatrician, as someone who says my job is to provide the best medical care for you, is I need to listen really carefully. And how I put it in words for kids so that they can understand it is, tell me your story. Where have you been in terms of your gender and your gender identity? Where are you right now? And more excitingly, where would you like to be in the future?
Have you ever met a 4-year-old who believes in Santa Claus? So this is someone who believes that a fat man is traveling through the sky on a flying reindeer at lightning speed, coming down his chimney with presents.
Yeah.
Would you say that this is someone who maybe has a tenuous grasp on reality?
Yeah.
They have an appropriate 4-year-old handle on the reality that's very real for them.
Agreed. But Santa Claus is real for them, but Santa Claus is not actually real.
Yeah, well, but Santa Claus does deliver their Christmas presents.
You see?
Well, yeah, but he's not real, though.
To that child, they are.
When I see a child who, believes in Santa Claus, and then let's say this is a...
She said that. Here's the question. How much are we going to listen to children's imagination in contradiction to reality? Because there's a lot of stuff our children say that we can't just agree. I used to believe a lot of things. I used to believe I was Bruce Lee. I really believe at one stage of my life, I was the next Bruce Lee. Okay? It only lasted a week or so. Eventually, I thought I was a policeman. I became an army soldier at one time, and I used to draw. I still draw pretty good. I used to draw soldiers, and thought that I was going to be in the army and, being able to fight war against criminals and everything. That only lasted for a while. The thing is, what I'm trying to say is the imagination is so inconsistent. It's such an incongruent reality that incongruent thing that we can't just put our hope and confidence in it and make decision according to a child imagination. And the imagination runs wild sometimes. So how much of that are you going to pay attention to? And I think these doctors these are the doctors today that are literally part of the problem with this gender ideology. They are not helping our children. They are hurting them.
Boy, and he says, I'm a girl. This is someone who can't distinguish between fantasy and reality. So how could you take that?
Good question.
As a reality?
Good question.
I would say that as a pediatrician and as a parent, I would say how wonderful my 4-year-old in their imagination is.
How what? Oh, come on, people. How wonderful is my 4-year-old in her imagination is? What is that exactly? What is she talking about? All right, let's keep going. You see, the thing is, how much of the imagination are you going to trust and believe? Because the imagination wanders. Children go through phases.
Think to themselves.
As stages. How much of that are we gonna make decision? Let's continue to listen to the rest of the interview with Dr. Michelle Forcier.
male gametes. That's what makes me male.
No, your sperm don't make you male.
Then what does?
That was very quick for her to answer that. No. Just making sure it's your emotion. It's not your sperm.
It's a constellation.
In reality.
What's the
in
constitution?
truth. Okay.
Whose truth are we talking about?
The same truth that says we're sitting in this room right now, you and I.
No, you're not listening.
You see, okay, this is where the problem really is with the gender ideology. They have a problem with truth. Truth has become subjective instead of objective. There is what is known as objective reality. There is what is known as truth that cannot be argued, undisputable truth, right? And what happens with the gender ideology, they have managed to create another form of truth. They have managed to adapt to the same principles that came about from the French Revolution, the principle of reason above truth. The reasoning power, which is nothing wrong with reason and intellect, but what's happening is they're trusting their minds more than the truth in itself, and what determines truth for them is different than what determines truth for the Christian, the doctors and so on, right? To them, biology doesn't matter. To them, God doesn't matter. To them, truth doesn't matter, no matter how strong it has been built on a foundation, confirm and affirm, become a fundamental principle where it is respected. They don't care about that, because what matters to them is what's going on in their minds, their emotion. This is really what's happening here. That's why she asked the question, which truth are you referring to? So their problem is something that is known in theology as relativism. It is the teaching that truth is relative to me based on my interpretation of it. Truth is relative to you based on your interpretation of it. And that's incorrect, because it's either it is true or it is not.
If I see a chicken laying eggs and I say that's a female chicken laying eggs, did I assign female, or am I just observing a physical reality that's happening in the world?
Does a chicken have gender identity? Does a chicken cry? Does a chicken commit suicide? Let's frame it, because you're trying to...
Chicken has sex like any biological
organism. A chicken
organism.
has an assigned gender, but a chicken doesn't have a gender identity.
So we assign female to chickens when they lay eggs?
We assume they're female if they lay eggs.
What?
Now, I was told
Long body and it's completely safe.
one of the drugs used is Lupron, right? Which has actually been used to chemically castrate sex offenders.
You know what? I'm not sure that we should continue with this interview, because it seems like...
Why not? This is a difficult one for her at this stage of the game. It is used to chemically castrate sex offenders, Lupron, and this is what is being used as puberty blockers today to our young people.
It's going in a particular direction.
Well, you're a medical professional.
I am a medical
As long as you don't ask the difficult questions.
professional.
You don't want to talk about the drugs that you give to kids, or...
Again, I'm a physician and I use medication. You're choosing exploitive words.
What's so
Drug.
exploitive about the drug Lupron? It is a drug, well known. I don't know why are they some of these people so easily offended? I just don't understand.
I give
I'm choosing a
chemical
word that was
castration.
in a dictionary.
That's not a correct term for puberty blocking in a
I could look it
transgender
up on my
person.
phone, but I'm pretty sure if I looked it up,
You can look it up on your phone.
it says medical definition: the administration of a drug to bring about a marked reduction in the body's production of androgens and especially testosterone.
And I'm saying, as a pediatrician who takes care of hundreds of these kids, when you use that terminology, you are being malignant and harmful.
I mean, there are some who would say that giving chemical castration drugs to kids is malignant and harmful.
It's about the context of caring for a child. And,
The
and
context.
seeing
The context makes a difference. I can do it because I have good motive at heart. My context is different than others. So therefore that means I'm justified for using it. And I'm a doctor. Therefore I'm justified. What a logic.
The suffering that kids can have that
Suffering.
have not been in affirmative home situations.
Affirmative. Oh, this is really, really bad. This is a lot worse than I thought. And I saw this before. It's just like, as you're listening, you become to realize there is a serious problem with these doctors. And I sometimes I wonder, do they actually believe what they're saying, or are they saying it just because of popularity's sake? Are they saying it just because to appease to a culture that they have subjected themselves to? Or are they saying these things because it is biology, according to them, or based on what they were taught? Are they saying this because they love money? Or are they saying this because they're cruel and evil? They don't really care. This attitude of benevolent, this careless and prideful spirit that says, I don't care. As long as I make a living of your pain and confusion or sexual dysphoria that many youth are suffering from, rather than trying to heal their condition. It seems like these doctors are just taking advantage of them, which is really evil and wicked at heart. So that's the first interview for today. I just wanted to address that. There's much more to come, certainly. And I think, yeah, I will say this much, though. I'm going to show you what the Bible says. Going to the scripture, a single thing that stands out to me as I was listening to this. And I love to share this passage because it really explains what happens to many institutions, the doctors and so on, and how they have failed miserably. Because when they knew God, they glorify him not as God. This is where it all happened. God got rejected. God got the boot. The door was shut in his face, right? And ever since that happened, the Bible said they weren't thankful, but they became vain in their imaginations. And what was the result? And their foolish heart was darkened. Now look at this one. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools. Now look what they do, friends. We are doctors, we are professors, we are teachers, we are wise men. But the scripture says you're a fool. And you don't even know light from darkness. You have a difficult time differentiating between male and female. Why has that happened? Well, they have rejected God. So as once you reject God, anything goes. Anything goes. The devil comes with his theology and infuse the mind with confusion. I think that's what's going on here, but I'll keep watching. So that's just one interview. We have a few more that we're going to address. Maybe next time we're gonna delve into, I'm not gonna say which one, so just be tuned, stay tuned for it. I need to check out the time, how long it is, and everything else. So all throughout the week, I'm gonna start uploading these videos from What is a Woman. This is very significant. Let me know what your perspective is on this. Why do you think these doctors are talking the way they do? How did you? What were some of the thoughts you have based on the interview that Matt Walsh just had with this woman? Do you think she's correct for her position, or do you think she's dead wrong? But do you think she's just confused, just don't know any better? Where do you stand as a pediatrician professor, Michelle Forcier, MD? What's your perspective on her position concerning gender ideology? Let me know what you think. I've already shared with you my perspective. Till next time, guys, as always, remember to look unto Jesus, to live by faith. Make sure you like and subscribe to the page as well. Click the bell icon for more of our notification uploads. We have links and stuff down there. Comment below. Put your recommendation below. See you on the next one.